Welcome in, everybody. It is Tuesday night, which means one thing and one thing only. It is time for the Fantasy Cheat Sheet. But before we talk football, we got to hit the intro. What is going on, everyone? It is a three-man show tonight, but let's just get the party started. Jamie, what is up, my dude?
Not much. Just getting ready for the playoff push in all my leagues. If I'm not contending, I'm trying to, trade away all my assets that are aging to get some picks for next year to rebuild.
Jordan, what is up?
Not much. Same old, like Jamie said, getting prepared for this stretch run of the playoffs. Hoping to get some sneaky waiver pickups tonight. So we'll see what happens.
All right. So before we get into the show, I got to make a little bit of an announcement for everyone watching and talking about playoffs. Playoffs? The three of us have all made Scott Fish Bowl playoffs.
Hell
So
yeah.
let's go. The three of us, all three on the screen, have made it to the playoffs. So that's a good thing.
Who's on the top of the list?
Oh, shush. who was on the top of the list all freaking year until
Doesn't matter
last
how you
week?
start, it's how you finish, buddy. No, that's awesome, man. I think 10 people out of the Going for Two family all made
10
it.
out of 17.
Yep.
So look at this dweeb says, "What's up, people?"
What's up, Jamie?
And then Albert, my man, what is up?
Albert, what's
see
up,
you
Albert?
everywhere. And then we got, I know he's not here on camera, but Reggie, what is up, my man? Hope you're doing good. All right. There's two big pieces of news, but I will preface by saying we're not talking about one quite yet because it will be brought up later. These other big piece of news that dropped today, the Jets fired head coach Saleh a few weeks ago, demoted Hackett. Now they're going for it. They fired Joe Douglas, the GM, today, which means we're looking at a new team in 2024. Jamie, overall, what do you think about the firing of Joe Douglas, and what does this mean for the team in general?
It means a rebuild. It's going to start a rebuild next year. Get rid of everyone, especially Aaron Rodgers. He obviously can't run a team. Just keep Breece Hall. That's all I ask. Is keep Breece Hall and that defense. That's pretty much all I got to say, man.
All right, Jordan.
It's a dumpster fire.
You dealt with, I'm going to call him for your team. You dealt with AR-12 before. So what does this overall mean, and what does this mean for Aaron Rodgers' failed attempt at a comeback with the Jets?
It just means that they are conceding that it was a disaster. And now they want to wash their hands completely of this regime of Rodgers and just kind of erase this season altogether. Want to start over, like Jamie said, keeping a lot of the young guys, but Aaron Rodgers and his crew of people, they're going to be out of there. I just think they put everything in the basket of an aging quarterback that they weren't sure could still produce at the level that he was 2 years before they signed him, not even the year prior to them signing him, because he was not that good his last year in Green Bay. But, they hinged on him getting back to that level, and it just never happened. He has the weapons, he has the defense, and it just didn't work out. So I think it's just best that they don't give this another year, turn the page on it, get him out of there. Maybe he tries to he wants to continue playing Rodgers, that is, wants to continue playing next year. It just seems like it won't be with the Jets if he does.
All right, so Jamie said something that caught my attention. And I'm not disagreeing with you at all, Jamie, that it's a rebuild. It's definitely a rebuild. Rodgers is gone. Did you accidentally not bring up another player that you would hold? Or did you purposely leave out Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, no, I just forgot to mention him.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure.
I would love to see him go to a different team, but he's not ready yet. He's still 2 more years of his contract?
Yeah, it's only his second year, so he's got his 2 plus. He's got 2 plus his option if they take it, because he was a round 1 pick.
What does this do to his dynasty value to you guys, considering that Rodgers won't be there? We don't know obviously we don't know where they'll pick. I don't think they'll completely tank this year, so they won't have that high of a pick if they continue competing. So what does this do for Garrett Wilson from a dynasty standpoint, you guys' eyes?
All right, so this is my quick take, and then I'll let you run with it. I don't give a shit about Aaron Rodgers being there. Is Devontae Adams there? Because if it is unlikely, but my point, I think his value goes down because of Devontae, not because Aaron, because who knows what they're going to do at quarterback. For all we know, they could bring back Sam Darnold.
That might actually be pretty good for us.
I'm saying. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we all kind of anticipated anyway that Rodgers wasn't going to be there long term.
I thought he would be there at least next year too.
I thought he'd be there next year.
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of have to lower him, not knowing who the quarterback's going to be. Because what if it is someone like Daniel Jones next year throwing? I mean, you got to downgrade him somewhat, but he's still got to be considered like top 12, maybe top 14 at the lowest.
Okay. Now did anyone fall asleep last night a little bit earlier than normal? Because I think the Cowboys fell asleep on the sidelines. They were falling like pieces of metal from a stadium. Okay. With all seriousness, it's time to get into Monday Night Football. 34-10, Cowboys lost to the Texans. They held their own for a little bit, but it seemed like in the second half, they didn't even show up. But here's the major stat lines: 23 for 34, no touchdowns, 257 yards for C.J. Stroud. Thank you, sir. I lost because of you in one league. Joe Mixon, 20 carries for 109 yards and 3 TDs. C.D. Lamb, 8 catches for 93. I did not realize that this running game sucked this bad. Rico Dowdle, 10 carries for 28 yards, not even 3 yards a carry. Cooper Rush, 55 attempts. 55 attempts for a quarterback like Cooper Rush. God awful. Jamie, what did you take away from this game? Because it was horrible.
Texans are a pretty tough team to run on. Rico Dowdle, he hasn't really been getting much carries anyway. So I remember taking under on his carries, which was like 13 and a half. I took the under on his yards also. But the one thing I want to take away from it was Cooper Rush, man. Like, compared to what he did the week before, I was actually happy to see him air the ball out. He got CeeDee Lamb involved. I was worried about CeeDee Lamb. I was going to downgrade him to like a wide receiver 3 because of Cooper Rush. But like, just seeing that he actually got targeted a lot and almost had 100 yards, I think we have to keep playing CeeDee Lamb in that like top wide receiver tier.
Jordan, what was your main takeaway? And if you want to talk about Cooper Rush.
One thing that I'll just mention in passing is that Mixon is showing time and time again that he's a stud. But from a Dallas standpoint, man, it just showed me that even though he threw 55 times, Cooper Rush threw 55 times, like you still you got 17 from CD, but it wasn't a 17 you were really happy about. You were like thankful, but it's like not something that you can be confident in. You can be confident that they're going to be losing every week, it seems, so they're going to have to throw a lot, but it's still an offense that you can't trust, and you don't. And to say that he threw it 55 times and had 32 completions, Schoonmaker was the next best target, but he didn't really put up a lot of points with those targets. A lot of short area stuff, things that's not really valuable overall if you don't get the consistent 8-9 catches or whatever. So it was good to see that he played much better than than stinking up the joint like he did his first start. But it still has me worried that outside of CD, you can't really trust anybody else.
All right, so I've made wisecracks about the Cowboys all night, so I'm not going any more into them. You guys brought up CD and Cooper Rush. Jordan, you brought up one of the things that is going to lead into my take on this one. You brought up Joe freaking Mixon. Yes, he's a stud. I will also add a caveat to it since it's not on the show sheet. The Bengals are missing him a lot more than people think. Even though they're getting production out of, I think just overall they're missing him as a leader and everything else. That's a whole nother story. But even with Mixon's doing great, and I love it because me and you have talked about it, Jordan, over and over on the show. But because Mixon is doing so great,
yeah,
CJ Stroud is doing good for real football. But for dynasty football, he is a disappointment, which makes the targets a disappointment. Yes, Jeremy Tunsil was downfield last night on the first play from scrimmage, you jerk, because I lost by 1.2 points and I had freaking Nico Collins. So I would have won that matchup. But overall, you have Diggs out, Tank's back, Nico, and you get 200 and what did I say? Yeah, you had 257 yards and one interception. Well, yeah, 23 and 34. If that's what you need to win every time with Joe Mixon carrying the rock 20 times, that's what they're going to do to win games. DeMeco Ryans is a defensive coach anyway. If that's how it's going to take to win games and beat teams like if they do when they get to the playoffs, and they got to go against teams like Buffalo and KC and even Baltimore and keep the ball out of people's hands. That's how they're going to win, and that's what scares me. Any other thoughts, you guys?
Nope.
All right. So since we only got 3 of us, let's just get straight into it. Let me bring it up. It is time for real or fake. And since there's only 2 of us, we'll just all talk about them because there is some stuff that we need to discuss, both of you, on your topics. Jamie, why don't you take it away with your real player of the week?
Yeah, mine is Devin A-Chain. I remember going into this year, A-Chain was expected to split, getting 45, maybe 50% of the snaps. We've seen that increase this whole season so far. Like he averages 60% on the year, but the last 3 weeks, that has increased to about 70% of the snaps. I think he had 17 carries, the Mostert and Wright combining for 8, and he also had 4 targets last week. Since Tua's been back, I know A-Chain's seen at least 5 or more targets every week, except this last week he only seen 4. But for the rest of the season, I'm going to have to put A-Chain as a top 3 running back every week. And for Dynasty, you have to consider him top 4, top 5, like right behind the big 3. This worries me for Jalen Wright drafters because going into next year, we thought Wright was going to take over that Mostert role. I don't see that happening if A-Chain is going to get 70% of the snaps, man. So that's worrying me for the Wright owners.
Go ahead, Jordan. I want to take first on the next one.
I agree. I was high on him coming into the season. I didn't think he would play this much of the snap share, like you mentioned. But I don't think it should dissuade Wright owners too much. I feel like this is kind of a similar trajectory that A-Chain had last year during his rookie season. An injury kind of hampered him in the beginning, and then he kind of eased his way into eventually showing some electricity. And then he got hurt again, and then that kind of, I don't think Wright has been as good as A-Chain was last year, but I still think he's shown enough to he looks like he's getting more work as the season goes on. He's starting to battle Mostert for that second role right now. They're using Mostert less and less. So by next year, I think he'll have a good chunk of it, but it's just not as much as you would have hoped when you initially drafted him. And like we were pegged to believe. But no, I think you can still feel good about Wright moving forward. But as far as Achane goes, yeah, definitely real performance. Hoping, praying that he doesn't get hurt and Tua stays healthy as well, because all his success hinges on Tua's health and the team overall. So if all status quo health wise, I think he'll be top 5 running back, top 8, top 5, 8-ish, something like that moving forward.
All right, so here's the thing. I'm just going to get straight into the dynasty part real quick. You brought up the big 3, Jamie.
Yeah.
I've had this discussion with multiple people here on, like, I know me and you have talked about dynasty rankings off camera. For people that don't, me and Jamie talk every day. So me and Jamie have talked dynasty rankings with this player during trades or whatever. And then I've had people at work that have asked me dynasty questions that are new to dynasty. I sat down and was like, all right, looking at my rankings and figuring it out. I got him at 4. I think he's at my 4 after the big 3. I've saw people that I know someone that at my work that had him at 3, and I was like, what? They just like him more than they're higher on him because of Montgomery being in the backfield in Detroit. I get it, but I have him at 4. When it comes to this year and it comes to your thing of putting him as your real, kudos, because you're 100% right. He is real. This offenses look different he looks different. Certain players, I'm just going to say it because I know he's not on the show sheet. Jalen Waddle, where are you? Where's Waldo? Where are you? But Tyreek is looking good. Achane looks like a different person now that Tua's back. So I think he needs Tua. He needs that kind of offense guy. There's other players that look good in his offense. But yes, Achane is real. As long as the snap share is there and as long as Tua's there, it's a plus. Mm-hmm. So Jamie, tell us who your fake is.
Oh, my fake has to be Anthony Richardson. Like, when the hell has A-Rich ever thrown more than 50% of his passes?
Bro.
In week. Keep going.
Okay, so he struggled in every single game he played except for week 1. He's been having issues with
that's
fumbles.
when he did it.
Okay, so fumbles, interceptions, low yardage, getting sacked, needing that sideline break. So pretty much he's like Daniel Jones on steroids, having huge games or just disappoints us, like that high floor, low ceiling, right? Next week he faces the Lions. They are a tough matchup for passing and rushing. So I want to see what he does next week. Detroit's going to dominate the time of possession, and they're going to crush the scoreboard. So that's going to force Anthony Richardson to throw the ball. So we get to see a little bit more of what he could do next week. But I don't believe that everything is just magically fixed all of a sudden, and he's matchup proof. There's always that fear that Richardson's going to get benched again at any moment, and it could be in the first quarter of any game. So right now, that's why he's fake to me.
Did you do this just to start a goddamn fight on the show? You knew what was going to happen with Jordan being mad at you. Okay, let's get into it. Let's get real here. I have to defend my boy. Going into the goddamn season that I put out an article saying that it was a bold take that he could end up being the QB1. He was freaking top 5 quarterback in week 11. I'm not saying this is going to be every freaking week for the rest of the season, and he's going to end up being, from now on to week 18, going to be the QB1. But there's one thing that you said that I think is absolutely blasphemous at this point of the season. He's not being benched.
No.
He's not being benched. Flacco's gone. If Flacco could have got them to the playoffs, they would have kept Flacco. They're doing this to see what they have in the future, because this is going to prove either he is the starting QB in 2025, or they're going to have to start off fresh and go a different route. Yes, we've talked about it on here, and I've talked about it on my other Friday show, Jamie. We've talked about the fact that teams have done, and I know it's been brought up other places all over the Twitterverse. Teams in these days do a really crappy job on developing quarterbacks because they want them. There's a reason that Bo Nix is doing so well. There's a reason that Michael Penix got drafted in the top because they are older quarterbacks. They're not young. They didn't get drafted at 2021 like Richardson. When it comes to your point about the percentage, the passing percentage, yes, this is one of the first times he's gone over 60%, 63, 65 and a half, whatever it was, but it's one of the first times he's gone over 60. He was like below, he was at like the 40s for a good chunk of it. You brought up Detroit. Knowing that you are, I know you liked him at the beginning of the year, but knowing that you are worrisome of what he can do. Not as Mike Hicks, not as a regular other fantasy player, anybody like that. As Jamie Perogue, what do you consider his high for this week against Detroit? What do you think he could end up as, like, on the high?
Probably QB 12.
At this point, I would be, but what I'm saying is I would accept that at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing what Detroit's doing, even as a Richardson fan, I would be happy with Richardson as QB 12. I'm not trying to boast. I'm not trying to brag, but yes, I am trying to brag. In my QB start article last week, I wrote him up as a super flex start because he was ranked lower and that he could end up as a top 15 QB. Did I think he was going to end up this high this week? Absolutely not. But when I freaking opened the show sheet on my lunch break today and saw that your dumbass had him as the steal of the week or as the freaking fake performance of the week, I know down in Louisiana, this guy was laughing because he knew I was going to get pissed off. Jordan, I can't get more mad at him right now because I got something else to throw in his face later, so go ahead.
I don't think it's fake. The only thing that may be fake is the way that it happened, like you said, with the completion percentage. But him scoring the fantasy points is not fake to me just because he's shown us his potential. Like the potential hasn't left. This is a guy who is finally about to reach the rookie amount of starts. Like he's maybe at the 12, 13 starts, maybe. He hasn't had like a full rookie season yet because of the injuries. And then he got benched. So we got to give him some time. I still think it's there. And then he can close out the season strong. He talked about this being the freest he's felt in a long time playing. And maybe, having that different perspective of not just being hurt and not playing, but being healthy and being benched and having to look at it from that perspective. Maybe that changed him mentally. That could have helped him moving forward. Detroit is a tough matchup, but when you have the legs that he has, he can always kind of bring that floor up. I'm not 100% sold on, just running him out there regardless of the matchup. But I do think that for the rest of the season, looking at his matchups, I mean, they have a bye coming up, but he has, I think, New England or something like that. And just real quick, looking at it, he has, after Detroit, he has New England. I would start him against them. Then he has a bye. Denver and Tennessee, that'll be a little tougher. But he has the Giants in like the championship week. If you have them, it's maybe something to roll the dice with. But man, I like what he was saying after the game. We all liked him before the season. I'm not ready to jump off yet.
Yeah, with the Giants pass rush, dude, that's insane. So I think they can get after him, force them to throw early. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see what. Well, let's not bring up the Giants pass rush yet. You can bring that up later. Jordan, who is your real player of the week, sir?
Not the flashiest guy by any means, but just somebody who continues to get the job done. David Montgomery, 2 touchdowns this week on a Lions team that's been humming on offense. he's splitting with Jahmyr Gibbs, but who cares? Because he's guaranteed to have a chance to score a touchdown every week. He scored a touchdown in every game except 2. He's like the NFC North version of Derrick Henry when it comes to scoring a touchdown. Like he's gonna get those opportunities. So now he's getting targets more than I anticipate. He had like 3 targets. I mean, for the way that he runs the ball in the touchdown opportunities, having 3 targets and catching all 3 is valuable for him. Just adding to, the sugar. It's like the sugar on top for him, and I like him a lot as just somebody who has that consistent floor to me that you can roll out there, and then he'll give you those ceiling weeks like he did, scoring 2 touchdowns, getting 75 yards. If the Lions could actually play close games, it would be a lot. It would be a lot better games for him and Gibbs. But the fact that they've been blowing these horrible teams out the water, it's kind of capped those guys' ceilings. But hopefully looking ahead, that they'll have some competitive games against the Bears, the Packers, the Bills, and the Bears and 49ers. They'll get more work, and you can rely on those guys, particularly, Montgomery and Gibbs moving forward.
Yeah, Jamie, what do you think about? I know me and you kind of talked about Monty today.
Yeah, I love Montgomery, man. Like, I have a team where I have him and Gibbs in my lineup.
Too.
Yeah, and I love it every week. Montgomery, yeah, he only got like 40% of the snaps last week, seeing about 45 on average per week. But that just means he's fresh when he comes in. Like fantasy points per opportunity, he's getting over a point for every opportunity. That's top 12 in the league for running backs. Touchdowns, dude, like he's got to be up there, top 5, right?
Yeah.
Like I know he has like about 10 touchdowns.
I believe so.
So yeah, you just have to keep rolling Montgomery out. I would buy him if you can, if you need a RB2. But yeah, he was one of my favorite going into the year for value, and I even sat him like I'm even starting him over like James Conner in one league just because he's got that touchdown upside.
All right. I'm glad you brought this guy up for a different reason. I'm just going to say it's real. That's all I need to say. But my take is not over. Overall, you know where I'm going with this, Jamie. I want Jamie's opinion, but I want yours too because I know Jamie's thoughts process to a certain degree. Next season, what do you think his value? What do you think? Do you think he continues this next season, or do you think it finally starts to taper off?
No, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like I think it's going to continue. It's the same way it is now. And plus, he's got that contingent upside. If something happens to Gibbs, he just goes up to like 65, 70% of the snaps.
I agree. I thought that it would change going into this year, so I was a little worried about Montgomery's opportunities, but that hasn't changed. And I don't see the Lions looking to change that. That if they lose at any point down the line, I don't think it'll be because of that. So I don't see them wanting to change that. They want to preserve Gibbs as much as possible. He's not a big guy, so
I got a guy trying to buy. I'm in semi-rebuild, and I got a guy trying to buy Monty off me. That's why.
Yeah, we talked about don't give him up for anything less than like an early.
Oh no, I'm gonna ask for another pick.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jordan, who's your fake player?
This is a guy that you know very well, and it's the wrong tight end for the Chiefs. It is Noah Gray. He's someone who was getting targets when DeAndre Hopkins wasn't there. Juju was hurt. We didn't know what happened to Justin Watson, and Rashee Rice was hurt, and all these things. He was getting targets then, and then he comes up in a big game against the Bills, gets 5 targets, and catches 4 for 23 yards and 2 touchdowns. Obviously, you see a line like that, you don't anticipate that continue, especially when the number 1 tight end, who is one of the greatest tight ends of all time, had 2 catches on 4 targets for 8 yards. So, just not sustainable. And yeah, fake performance.
All right. How dare you talk smack about my team because you're 100% right. I love Noah Gray as a backup, but this is not going to sustain, and I hope it doesn't sustain, because if it does sustain, we got problems in Kansas City, Missouri. We need other players to be in the end zone. 87. We need 8 to get in the end zone. We need 27 and 10 to get in the end zone. Yes, you heard me right. 10. So yes, he's a good backup. I just, like you said, the 4 for 5 line, the 2 touchdowns, the 1 touchdown was on that exact Travis Kelce play.
Yes.
They let everyone go, and then they dump it right down the middle, right into the heart of the freaking, right at the goal line. And then the other one was the scramble. It wasn't even a designed play for him. He just happened to be the open guy. When he threw it, I was like, who's he throwing it to? And then I realized it was Noah Gray. So, Jamie, yes, this is a fake performance. Yeah. I know you agree, so go.
It's fake. He usually sees about, 60%, 56% of the snaps, but he's not involved in the passing game. He only had 2 red zone targets all year, and then all of a sudden in one game he gets 2 touchdowns. There's only 2 touchdowns of the year. No, that's fake. It was a fluke. I would not expect him to get another touchdown in his next 10, 15 games, whatever he plays.
All right. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you whatsoever. All right. So it is turn for my, whatever I'm trying to say. My real player. I want to make sure I have this right. All right. So my real player of the week in week 11 was wide receiver 57. Okay. 5-7. In week 10, he was 13 or 23, whatever. So here's his lines of the year: 18.7, 18, off 10.2, 3.0, 20.7. Yes, I know he's got a couple big weeks. Off 12.6, off 12.6, 6.1. Unfortunately, that's Deebo freaking Samuel of the San Francisco 49ers. And here's why I say it's real. I do not believe that he's going to get 6 to 8 points every week. The ceiling weeks of him getting 17, 18 to 22 points, I think, is not going to happen in the rest of the season. You got Ayuk gone. And Jamie, a player that you guys spotlighted a couple times on Sunday morning show, is the main reason I think that he is no longer going to have those top weeks. And that's because the other real player, another player that is real, but the reason I didn't put him as my real is I wanted to spotlight the fact that due to his realness, Deebo was going down a little bit, and that's Juwan Jennings. Yeah. I think Deebo's going to go back to being, having some of those gimmick plays. And with Kittle being dinged up a little bit, they're having to play the game a little bit different. They're still trying to get McCaffrey involved. Purdy got dinged up a little bit. I just think that you drafted what you drafted Deebo to be and what you hope Deebo to be like in dynasty circles, you're just not getting that performance. And if you can get out on him, go for it. But I don't think you're going to for the value that you wish. Jamie.
Yeah, Deebo's always going to be inconsistent. He's going to have big, huge games. He's going to have these low-scoring games like he did last week. But at least he's seeing targets, so that's a plus. Like, if he caught all 7 of his targets, we'd probably be talking different. If he ran for more than -1 yard, it would be a different story too. But no, I could still see him having those big games, but just like my Anthony Richardson fake, like it could be a good game, could be a bad game. I kind of see Deebo in that same light where he's going to either go off or he's not going to do much.
I think it's real just from, we have to kind of lower expectations, and that's kind of what you're saying. When Ayuk went down, I thought for sure Debo would take off. But then Jawan Jennings continued his ascension. And I remember last week we were like, we can't expect him to lead the team in targets with 11 again. And then he had 11 targets again to lead the team. So it's obviously his realness is going to continue. So that'll just make Debo's situation kind of fluctuate. And then we haven't seen a McCaffrey blow up game yet, and we don't know what that looks like for everybody else. So that's coming eventually. So yeah, you can kind of temper expectations for Debo. Still start him because he's going to get the work in a good offense, but don't expect him to kind of do what we all thought he would do. Well, what I thought he would do whenever Ayuk went down.
Oh yeah, when Ayuk went down, I thought that was going to be the opening that he needed, and obviously I was wrong on that one. All right, so for my fake player of the week, I love this one because holy cow, what a play. Nick Westbrook-Akine from the Tennessee Titans had a touchdown on Sunday. So here was his overall stat line before I tell you about that touchdown. Hold on, let me pull it. I thought I had it right, but I guess not.
But this is a horrible stuff.
So he had 29 routes run. He had 5 targets for 2 receptions for 117 yards. He had a 98-yard touchdown pass reception. 98 out of the 117 was on that one play. 39.7% of the team yards market share. He had 19.7 fantasy points, and 15 were on that one play in full PPR. I am sorry. That is a magic act if I've ever seen one. Jordan, take it away.
This dude has been on Real or Fake as a fake like 3 separate times.
I'm sorry.
So at this point, is it a fake? Like I don't
know anymore.
Like, will he catch a big play? Possibly at this point. Like, is he MVS? Like, I don't know, but yeah, obviously 2 for 117. Like, come on. Eventually that's gonna stop. Was kudos to him for making the most of it with a horrible quarterback. But yeah, I don't want to buy into it. I'm not gonna buy into it. But yeah, he's definitely been a fake, and he's put up multiple fake performances on his low target volume. So kudos to him.
Yeah, every time that he is a fake on a show, he has scored a touchdown. Increase the stat line. So I just don't see that keep happening. I know he's got a great schedule. But he's not the main target. Yeah, great schedule, but he's not the main target in that offense. So, I mean, if he's only catching 2-3 passes a game, that's not someone I want to go out and start. So, yeah, I believe this is a fake.
Okay, you bring up that he has this great schedule, but he's got Mayo Boy.
Exactly.
Yes,
so
that's what worries me. Boy that you got to deal with.
He can get like 9-10 targets and only catch like 2 or 3 of them.
All right, so let me make sure we are on track. Okay, so it is time for Jamie's buy and sell. And Jamie, before you go,
yes,
I need to say one thing. I was going to bring one of these guys up in my real or fake. So,
interesting to see which one.
Yeah, I was going to bring one of them up. I was going to bring up one of them in my real or fake. And then I realized that you had put them all 3 down.
Yeah.
So for your buys, and I'm not completely disagreeing with you, but for your buys, who do you have down and this is going to talk about Tyler's question.
Yeah, so after I get through these, we'll answer his question. But my buys are Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, and even Elijah Moore. So, like, since week 8, when Winston took over, all 3 of these receivers are actually usable in lineups. Elijah Moore, probably the cheapest of the bunch. He's seen like a 12-target game, a 9-target game, and an 8-target game. Last week, I believe he had like a 23% target share, or no, 23% target share since Cooper left the team. Also, his ADOT last week was 18.8 yards, which was the highest on all of the Browns receivers. So, yeah, I'm going out. I'm buying him cheap. Next is Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy had double-digit points every week with Winston. And we know he's a former first-round pick, so he's got that talent. Like, dude's just so fast, and that meshes really well with what Winston does, slinging the ball down the field. And then Tillman, yeah, he had a down game. But we all know he was crushing it. Last 3 weeks before the bye, he was a top 12 receiver each week. So you can't just ignore that. So even with the tougher schedule down the stretch, like all 3 of these receivers could be starters in your lineup and at least a flex position. In Dynasty, I'm throwing out like 3rd rounders for Elijah Moore. Even Jerry Jeudy, I'm trying to get cheap. And then you can still buy Tillman, I don't know, early 3rd plus maybe. What do you guys think about all 3 of them?
Go, Jordan.
I like them all. My favorite is Tillman, and my least favorite is Moore, but I definitely wouldn't mind having either one of those guys on my team. Jameis, the way he's been slinging it, they have tough matchups moving forward. I think they play the Steelers twice, and another tough defense. But I wouldn't mind having them. They're definitely good buys, and you don't really have to pay a lot to get them.
You're not going to believe what I'm about to say, Jamie. Like you are literally not going to believe what I'm about to say. My reel was going to be Jerry Jeudy.
Nice.
And not because I think he's like a top 5 or 6. I mean, I know he scored 26 points, and I know he was a top 6 wide receiver. But I think he has cemented himself as, yes, Tillman's going to have those pop weeks. Elijah can have those pop weeks. But I think out of that wide receiving core, I think Jeudy has made himself the number 1 target out of the 3 wide receivers. When it comes to buying them, yes, Elijah Moore is going to be the cheapest probably, but I do think it is worth a flyer if you have to, like you said in Dynasty, if you have an extra 3rd or, the hit rate in the 3rd round is not great. If you're going for the championship and you need an extra flex, we'll get to a reason why you might need an extra flex this week. We'll get to that later on in the show. Or no, they're on bye this week. Are they on bye this week?
Wait, no. We play Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
Thursday.
they play Pittsburgh Thursday night. So you might need them this week. We'll get into that. But overall, long term, I think Tillman's probably the best buy. But short term, it depends if you want to pay what you might have to pay to get Jeudy now. Someone might try to hold them hostage. Who knows? But overall, I do like them. Let's get into Tyler's question real quick, and then we'll get to your buy, sell, blah, blah, whatever. Would you drop Dell or Downs for Jeudy?
Yeah, I would go with Downs just because of the targets we've been seeing Jeudy and the inconsistency of Anthony Richardson. I know we talked, Jordan mentioned the schedule being tough. Denver was the other one.
Yes.
Except that you can exploit Denver in the slot. We've seen it with Flowers. We've seen it with JSN. We've seen it with Godwin. And Jeudy plays 30% in the slot, just like Flowers did. So he can still get targeted and get points. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Downs, dropping him for Jeudy.
Okay. Jordan.
I agree. Tank Dell still has that upside that you don't want to give up on. with CJ Stroud. And with Nico Collins kind of slotting back in, I think that'll help Tank. If Mixon doesn't continue to kill on the ground like he has been. But yeah, if I was gonna drop one of those, I would drop Downs for Jerry Jeudy.
Okay, I'm not disagreeing with the guys. I'm not saying that. But Tyler, how could you do this to me? I think it's Downs because Richardson is horrible and not good. That is so not true.
The show, dude. Listen.
That is not even true. He is not.
Yes.
He hasn't even had a full rookie season yet. The verdict is out. Give the man a break. We have given a certain quarterback. We gave a certain quarterback that will be brought up very soon about 36 chances and $41 million. So hold your horses.
So Tyler, just for backstory, Richardson was my fake player of the week, and these guys disagreed.
All right, Jamie, who's your sell so we can go to the next player?
All right, I'm selling Russell Wilson. Last week, Russell Wilson, he was an obvious fantasy start against the Ravens secondary, one of the best quarterback matchups on paper, and especially after he had like 3 solid, great performances. So why wouldn't I put him in my top 10? I don't know what happened to him. Did he crack under pressure because it's a divisional game? Like Steelers, like they are a team that rely on the defense. They're going to be run heavy. The next 5 weeks, he has 4 divisional games, and plus he has that Battle of Pennsylvania versus the Eagles. So I don't know if he can handle the pressure with all this. I could just see him put him up mid numbers the rest of the season. So see if you can like package him with another piece and try to upgrade at quarterback. What do you guys think?
I think we might have missed the sell window on him after this horrible game in a good matchup. But if you can package him with somebody who had a big game, then maybe. But just him on himself, that ship might have sailed because now nobody's gonna want to trust him.
I'm not disagreeing with him as a sell. He's still a conundrum to me. He's just still a conundrum. I don't understand. I mean, yes, I know they have a good defense. I don't understand how this team has this record. I just don't.
There's 2 MVPs on this team, TJ Watt and Chris Boswell.
Have you seen the list of the players that Chris Boswell has more fantasy points of this year?
Exactly.
It is ridiculous. All right, Jordan, before you go. It is time for Jordan's randomness of the week, and I'm going to say exactly what it says on the share sheet. Okay? I want to make sure I get it right. So his randomness says Giants QB choice. I'm going to say one thing before you talk about this quarterback situation. It don't look like your bold take is going true now, Jamie.
Hey, I mean, it happened so far up until now.
Jordan, take it away, sir.
So, this in times like this, someone like Jamie would take a victory lap on something that they said, that they were correct on or something like that. Well, Jamie, this ain't one of them times, buddy. Daniel Jones is getting benched. But I was just curious about the choice to go with Tommy DeVito over Drew Lock. I was anticipating, they would go with Lock, but just reading around, they were talking about the financial impact of Lock starting and potentially hitting some incentives that they didn't want to have to pay him for. And then Dave-O talking about the spark that Tommy DeVito gave him last year, which is why they kind of decided to go with him. And I was just going back and looking through DeVito's game log here. In his first start, they lost 30-6 to the Raiders. He threw 1 touchdown, 2 picks. The next game, they lost 49-17 to Dallas. He had 86 yards and 2 touchdowns and a pick. He played well against Washington with 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. That was a win. They beat New England 10-7. He threw for 1 touchdown, and they beat Green Bay. And after that, they lost to the Saints 24-6. Then they lost to the Eagles, and then he wasn't starting after that. I mean, winning 3 games is not necessarily giving them a spark, but I guess they couldn't say, hey, we don't want to pay this other guy. And I guess they want to see if he's going to be their backup quarterback for the future. But I guess for me, I'm worried about the weapons now, particularly Malik Neighbors. I don't really care about Wandale that much. But I'm worried about Malik Neighbors with Danny DeVito's grandson at quarterback now. And I would have liked to see Drew Lock get a chance. I thought that might be a good option for the weapons, considering his arm. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. And if DeVito stinks it up, then maybe Lock will get a chance a few games down the line. But I thought it would happen now. What do you guys think about first Jones getting benched and then their decision to go with the third string guy? Now Daniel Jones will be the emergency quarterback and not even the backup moving forward.
All right, so I'm not going to bash too hard on Jamie's man, Daniel Jones, except for the fact that I will say this just puts the writing on the wall that he's going to get cut and they're going to have to eat some of the dead cap and all. But there was rumors that, they won't cut him because of the dead cap, and they'll have to figure that. I think that's a foregone conclusion. There's one reason, and one reason only, in my opinion, that Danny DeVito's grandson is the starter of the New York Football Giants, and it has nothing to do with the goddamn spark. It has nothing to do with freaking cutlets for dinner. It has nothing to do with the green suit that his agent wore last year. Currently, does anyone know what this means? Jacksonville Jaguars. Does anyone know what this is? In order. Jacksonville Jaguars, Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns, New York Giants, Las Vegas Raiders.
The current draft order, what it would be.
And Giants aren't close enough to number 1, and Drew Lock would maybe win too many games. That's why Danny DeVito's grandson is the starting quarterback, is because they have, but yes, besides the incentives, they need to get us close to that number 1 pick, and they're all with 2 wins. So their problem is they need to lose more games, and that's why Danny DeVito's grandson. And the last thing I want to say before I throw it to you, Jamie, is, does everyone realize, and I'm not saying it with just us, does everybody realize what we get to watch on Thanksgiving afternoon football now?
Cooper Rush
versus Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
That is what we get to do on Turkey Day.
And that's like the 3 o'clock. That's like the 3 o'clock game, too.
That's the afternoon right in the middle of dinner for me. It's 1 o'clock afternoon for me. Go ahead, Jamie.
So I think this has more to do with the contract situation. So Daniel Jones, if he gets hurt, they owe him guaranteed money. And then if Drew Lock, there's something in his contract that if he plays a certain amount of snaps or a percentage of snaps, they owe him money.
Yep.
So that could be part of it. And what Mike said, they were trying to lose more games. But good luck losing more games than the Browns. I think we got you there, buddy. But going off the Daniel Jones things, I was so close up until now. Like, the only quarterbacks that he's below is C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love, Stafford, and Lawrence. And then he would have been right at that point where I predicted him to be. So screw you, Daniel Jones.
So he was 5 away from top 15?
Yeah.
All right. Jordan, set me up.
So, every year, there's bye weeks, obviously. But the NFL just angers me with the way that the bye weeks are structured. Week 8, no one was on a bye. But we'll talk a little bit more about that as we all struggle to pick up scraps on waivers for this week, which Michael kind of talk about in his rant of the week. Go ahead on.
Schedule makers of the NFL. Go SCREW yourselves. Okay? Just like Jordan brought up. Bye week start in week 5. In week 8, you decide to have how many? Now in week 12, I'm going to skip week 12 for a second. In week 14, there's 4 teams on bye in the last week of the regular season of fantasy football. I know it's not all about fantasy football, but here's the problem. The NFL knows how much millions of dollars that fantasy football brings into the league and casual people. And you put 4 teams on bye in the last week of the regular season. You know how many teams are on bye in week 13? I think it's less.
0? That sucks.
But here's the biggest thing. You got 6 teams on bye in week 12. The bye-pocalypse is here. Some of my teams, Jamie, what was the question I asked about quarterback on Sunday morning when I said this is an ugly question?
Oh, yeah, geez, I don't remember, but it was ugly. Minshew or
It was
Russ?
Gardner Minshew or Cooper Rush. And then you throw 6 bye weeks into it. Now my number 1 quarterback in that league is on freaking bye. So now I have to start both of them in a 2-quarterback league.
Oh, yeah.
Well, at least you don't have to start Mac Jones.
I'd rather start Mac Jones.
Oh, man.
Here's the easiest way to fix it. I understand you got London. I understand that. But figure it out and then fit it around this. If you want to start in week 5, I don't give a crud. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 8. There is 32 teams. NFL schedule makers. This is simple. Yes, you're right.
Kyle.
Yeah, I'll get to that. Yeah. 4 times 8 is 32. And then you would 4 times 8 is 32. It's not that hard math. Jamie and Jordan's kids can both do this mathematics. 8 times 4 is 32. People
It'd
that
be a little harder for mine.
thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a schedule. And Roger Goodell, you can do this math. Roger Goodell has gone to so many international games that Roger Goodell could probably do this math in 6 different languages, including Portuguese. Okay? And then you would end in 12, which would make this non-relevant, which it is relevant for sure. Week 13 is the Thanksgiving slate with 3 extra games. They're afraid of not having enough games to have a bye. I understand that. 100%. But then end it in week 12 and don't put it to week 14, you freaking goons. Jamie, bye-pocalypse is a nightmare. Are you dealing with it? And why has this not been fixed after 3 years of bye-pocalypse?
Everyone's dealing with it, and I don't think the NFL cares about our fantasy teams because if they did, they would fix it. But you're right, man. The math. Put four teams on bye for 8 weeks. It's simple.
Yeah, I don't know. I know they don't care about our fantasy teams, but it has to be some monetary reason, and part of it is like what Kyle is saying about Thanksgiving and whatnot, and then week 8 being National Tight End Day. I guess that's part of it, but it's something to do with money. If I know the NFL,
it's my yearly PSA, and this every year it just drives me more nuts, and
Well,
oh shush, I'm done. This Tyler, I'm done.
People, week 12. Well, see, some of my teams, like I don't look at bye weeks, and I prefer to have all my players on one bye week at the same time. Just so I
don't mind it, but not when it's 6 teams. Here's the other problem, Tyler. I don't know how many leagues you're in, Tyler, but when you got me and Jamie, Jordan, how many leagues are you in?
25.
Yeah, I'm in 35, 36.
You're in 25? I didn't think your number was that high. You're just as high. You're right around where I'm at. I thought I was worse than you. Jason, I'll get into your question just shortly. It is Jamie's time that he needs to work for his stuff, and then we'll get into the questions after this.
50.
All right. Go ahead. First-time users, go use the Underdog promo code GF2. And Underdog, you get up to $1,000 in bonus cash right now. They got best ball. They got highers and lowers in every major sport, including e-games, MMA, NASCAR, F1, all the works. If you're in the offseason and you're drafting best ball, 75% of the time you are drafting with Jamie Perogue. So go ahead, GF2 in capital letters for Underdog, and you will get the promo code. Jamie, why don't you go ahead with your waiver wire, and then we'll do a couple questions, and then we'll go into Jordan's.
Okay, so waiver wire, I wanted to bring up Deontay Johnson's probably worth dropping. Yeah, he's talented, but doesn't seem to fit the Ravens' game plan. He's only had like 10 to 20% of snaps. In deeper leagues, if people do drop him, if you have an extra roster spot, go ahead, throw him on. I also wanted to bring up tight end Theo Johnson. I know Kyle loves this guy, Canadian. He's been playing 80 to 95% of snaps, plus he's seen 6 targets each in the last 2 weeks. And finally, must add of the week, Roshan Johnson.
We said one player. It's waiver wire, not waiver wires.
We've seen what the Bears look like without Waldron finally. Roshan got 11 touches, 11.1 fantasy points in his first game with Brown calling the plays. The Bears' offensive line, they ranked 3rd in run block win rate with Johnson and Swift combining for 27 touches last week. There's room for more opportunities. 42% of snaps went to Roshan. 57 went to Swift. Expect Roshan. He's going to stay involved in that goal line situation, and he's proven to be dependable in the receiving option. So Roshan, solid potential flex play in any format. And if Swift gets injured, instant top 20.
Jordan, let's not give him the benefit of the doubt right now. What do you think about Theo Johnson?
Yeah, with Danny DeVito's grandson, it might be tough to trust, but he had been trending up, and I definitely liked where he was heading. And maybe they continue to keep him involved, and if DeVito can stay upright and be on target, I think Theo will be fine.
Jamie, you need to get his tattoo on your back. You need to get his jersey tattooed on your back.
If you look at any waiver wire article, listen to any.
Yes, I know, but that's the thing. Everyone can go anywhere else and get that info. Don't you want to give them some info that you can't get everywhere else? Oh, I forgot. No. Let's get into a couple questions. Jamie, I already know my answer to this one. If you looked at the thumbnail, there is my answer for this one. But I'll throw it to you guys first. Rest of season, Knicks, Purdy, or my boy AR-15?
Ooh, damn. Rest of season, they're all back-to-back in the top 10, kind of, if you think about it, with that upside. But consistency, ooh, I want Bo Nix.
I was about to say the same thing. I can't believe I am, but yes, I want Bo Nix.
Yeah, my
I
first
love
thought was
AR-15, but the answer is Bo freaking Nix. And go look at the thumbnail if you haven't, because I think I like it a lot. Not because I did it; it just turned out cool. All right, next question. Rest of season, Disley, Jake Ferguson. This is why I wanted to pull it up right before you went, sir. Disley, Jake Ferguson, or Kincaid. We'll just go Jamie, then Jordan, and then go right into your waiver.
Oh, man. Can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm going Disley. I mean, he's been seeing consistent targets ever since, week 6? And I have him in the 32-team league as my only tight end, and I'm loving it, man. He's winning me that league every week.
Same, Will Disley. Targets going up. Like I mentioned a couple weeks ago, the Chargers are looking to throw a little bit more, and he's been one of the biggest beneficiaries of that. So, yeah, and Kincaid has his struggles. He's hurt, and then even when he wasn't hurt, he struggled. And then Ferguson has Cooper Rush as his quarterback, and he's hurt as well. So, definitely, Will Disley.
All right. Jordan, take it away with your waiver wire, sir.
So piggybacking off of that, my pickup is to go get Luke Schoonmaker. Jake Ferguson suffered a concussion last night. He's gonna be out. I would anticipate. Guys typically miss at least one game with the concussion. So he had 10 targets last night in this game after Ferguson got hurt. And like I mentioned earlier, they're going to be trailing, so they're going to be throwing. CD isn't going to get everything, and the tight end has typically been the second target in this offense all year long. And Schoonmaker step in the other game where he filled in for Ferguson when he missed with the knee injury. He was serviceable in that game as well. They like him, and Reggie is insistent that he's more talented than Jake Ferguson. So they're getting him involved. You can go pick him up with the way that tight end has looked for us for most of the season, even though it's starting to kind of get better as the season has went on, the position overall.
Yeah, Jamie, what do you think overall about Schoonmaker?
Yeah, I mean, he can get you 10 to 12 fantasy points. So I like it. Like, I'd rather have him than like Isaiah Likely or the Tennessee tight end that's out there. I'm sure Carolina's tight end. Yeah, give me a Shoemaker.
Oh my God. Okay, Rokon Johnson. All right, so for my what do you call it? My waiver wire pickup. My waiver wire pickup of the week. He has been brought up earlier in the show, but I am going to bring him up anyway, not because he's going to be able to be your starter right away, but it's exactly what Jordan said. Jalen, the right stuff, right, is my pickup, and it's because he is going to be the security piece to A-Chain. A-Chain is definitely going to be the starter. I do agree with Jamie about what we thought Wright could be in Dynasty for like the future years might not be what we anticipated. But he is destroying. Mostert might not be on the field in 2 weeks the way Wright's taking his snap share. And I'm not saying that Mostert's getting a lot of opportunity, but with the way waiver wire is right now and the way the league is going with all the bye weeks and everything, you never know. There's been 2 or 3 weeks. I've talked to you about it, Jordan, but I know I've talked to Jamie about it a little bit more. Jamie, do you remember like 2 or 3 weeks ago when I was asking you, do I start Dare Agumawale or Tyler Goodson?
Yeah. Jesus.
Hey, when you're worrying about starting Tyler Goodson or Dare Agumawale with Kenneth Gainwell as your number one running back or Herbert as your number one. Yeah, I had Herbert at number one running back and started Goodson at my number two the week that first week Taylor got back. My whole point is Wright might be one of those guys that in deep leagues and just depending on what happens, if something, knock on wood, or Jamie, let me knock on your head. Hold on. if something happens with A-Chain or they need to like bring him back a little bit, target opportunity wise, it ain't gonna be Mostert anymore. It's gonna be Wright. So as an insurance policy, I still think you can get him for cheap and fab and not have to waste a super high waiver wire. Still think you can get Wright. That's the reason I want to bring him up. Any thoughts on Jalen Wright that were not brought up earlier tonight?
Yeah, I mean, he's getting more carries than Mostert did. Plus, Mostert got negative yards on his play. So, and he's getting like a 10% more snap share. And I believe Mostert's still like 70% owned in leagues.
Yeah,
and Mostert's only like less than 20. So switch them out. I would rather have Wright than Mostert right now.
Yeah, I think in Yahoo I saw right as like 19%.
Yeah, like Kyle said, Mostert did get hurt. He had like a hip injury, but I feel like even before that, you can tell that they were trying to make that. They were transitioning into making that switch.
They're pushing that way, and I think it just expedited it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think it was a serious injury. Right now, he's just questionable.
Yeah, it was like a hip injury, and I think he was on the sideline. I don't remember if he got back in though.
Yeah, Tyler. Yeah, Nick's Purdy the quitter. Nick's. Wright had 5 carries and 4. Yeah, I just think opportunity-wise, he's going to be the one that's going to end up.
We're not saying run him out there, but
no, I'm not saying run him out there. I'm saying get him as an insurance piece because at this point, you might need him later on. You'd rather get him now than miss out on him. Throw it around. Great show, guys. And then we will see you next week for week 13. Hopefully the 3 of us are still smack dab in the middle of SFB. Jordan, take it away.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Wish me luck. I'm hoping to keep it going in SFB. I went really far last year, so I'm hoping to kind of do that again. But I'll catch you guys next week, and we'll talk about it.
Yep, we'll see you here next week, and catch you on a Sunday morning Start Sit Show with me, Kyle, and Topher. So if you have any last-minute questions for lineups, hop in the chat. We'll answer them for you.
You guys know where to find me. Drop the Mike FF on here Tuesday nights. You can find me over at the Rum Boys on Friday nights. You can find me everywhere else. Have a nice night, everyone. For Jordan, for Jamie, I'm